Election season heating up, of course, early primary voting getting underway here in the state of Texas today. So we've got Jim Henson with the Texas Politics Project here to talk more about some of their latest UT Texas Tribune polls. Always a pleasure to chat with you, Jim, and always a million things to get to. So we'll dive right in.
Let's do it.
We will start statewide. We're going to talk about the Senate race and the presidential primary here. Let's start with the Senate. I was just telling you, I think it's so fascinating. So many candidates on the Democratic side. One of the questions you had to ask in your research, first of all, is which candidates have you heard of before you even got to which ones are you supporting?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting situation. On one hand, if you're a Democrat, you're happy. You've got a lot of people that want to run for this race, not the situation the Democrats have had for a lot of time. On the other hand, very crowded field, very muddled, and nobody in the race that really starts as a big front runner. And so, you know, we asked people, as you said, have you heard of these folks? The most well-known candidate, MJ Hagar, only known by about 31% of the primary voters. It's one of the reasons this is so open. Hagar's in front, and then you've got 4 or 5 people clustered beneath her, almost certainly going to have a runoff. But I think we're almost certainly also going to have a lot of people walking into the voting booth and deciding when they go to vote who they're going to vote for. Yeah,
it's interesting when you talk about that, and you see some numbers right there, the deep bench that every party wants to have and some things, but you can't have them all going for one gig, one office. And MJ Hagar is someone with some beginnings of a big name nationally too, even though she's in a tough spot.
Well, she's getting some, you know, it's helped her fundraise, and she ran, you know, a very close race, and but she didn't quite win last time. That's propelled her into the front of this race, but not enough to avoid the runoff, particularly with all these people in it.
And still tough with an incumbent like John Cornyn, and tough in a state like Texas, which has voted Republican so much. So that's for whoever gets out of this primary challenge, first off. Okay, now on to presidential politics. Early voting has started today. We're talking about Nevada, talking about Mike Bloomberg. Will be on the debate stage, even though he's not competing in Nevada. What are some of the numbers we're seeing here?
Well, here, we caught this, you know, in between Iowa and New Hampshire. You know, right now you're basically drinking out of a fast-moving stream at this point. So when we took our drink, we caught, I think, what is still going on, which is Bernie Sanders rising. So we had Sanders at 24, Biden at 22. So we caught Bernie Sanders consolidating his supporters and getting the attention of more Democrats. Joe Biden pretty flat in Texas. I think it's still a little too early to count Biden out completely, as some people have been doing, but his weaknesses have been exposed and his limitations. Warren behind that, Bloomberg then at 10%. And you have to really notice that Bloomberg number, I think. I mean, Mike Bloomberg in Texas, as he has in other parts of the country, has leapt over all these people that have been in the race for months, in some cases over a year, and entered with 10%. He's got all this money that he's spending in and one has to say, it's not just the money. They're spending the money in a pretty smart way. I mean, I think if you're somebody that kind of resents this, you're going to say, well, how could you're spending so much money if you're spending it poorly, who cares? But it's gotten him at 10% in Texas and now on the debate stage in Nevada. And
in big endorsements, I mean, Sylvester Turner in Houston, that's huge statewide in Democratic Party.
Well, Bloomberg has had an interesting strategy. He's done a lot of programs and done a lot of outreach with mayors across the country. He's now, to some degree, cashing in on those ties, and he's been endorsed by a lot of mayors. It gets him endorsements and media attention where there are lots of Democrats in cities across the country.
Yeah, like I said, so much to get to, so interesting. So much we left on the table here. Where can people go get more information on your research or see what you guys are up to?
They can go to texaspolitics.utexas.edu, and the news stories on the poll are breaking at the Texas Tribune.
Wonderful. Jim Henson, we hope you're here so much coming up here the rest of 2020.
Thanks, sir.
We'll give you coming by. All right.